It is officially 1:05, and I know we have a small group, but we do have other registrants that will probably join us as time goes on. And as usual, we will upload this to our YouTube website to be viewed at a later time for those who registered as well. But excuse me. I first just wanted to welcome everybody to our partner seminar today. My name is Max Malnad, and you aren't seeing me on camera. Unfortunately, I'm a bit under the weather today, so you will just be hearing my voice, but I'm so thankful that you've made time to be here and thankful to our speaker as well for being here. I'm the operations as well as the PACRIM conference coordinator here at the Center on Disability Studies and the University of Hawaii, so I'm pleased to welcome you here. As a reminder, we are recording this session and it will be available on our CDS YouTube channel. But if you could please be patient with us as it takes typically a few weeks for us to edit as well as include accessible captions. Some more reminders, if you could please maintain your video as off during the presentation unless prompted by our speaker. We ask that you please also mute your microphone unless prompted by our speaker until the Q&A portion that we will have at the end of the session. Please feel free to also use the chat for your comments or questions, and I will be sure that they get read and that they are shared for our speaker. We will also enable the captioning feature as part of our Zoom series. For a little more information about our partner seminars, CDS is proud of our numerous communities and agency partnerships and collaborations over the history of our center as Hawaii's University Center for Excellence on Developmental Disabilities. So every other month, we try to spotlight one of those speakers or collaborators and let them share more about who they are, the work they do, and the work that they continue to do or have done in relation to CDS and our areas of study and research. We hope this presentation will spark new or expanded collaborations for everyone and also helps deepen understanding of these wonderful community resources and topics that we will share about today. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our host, Jarek, to then lead us into our speaker.
Thank you very much, Max. So I have the honor of introducing our speaker, who I know pretty well over the last few years. He does work with our projects and hosting our student interns. And I was trying to think of what's a good way to highlight and exemplify him as a teacher and his abilities. And one story did come to mind. I had a class this past year. I work with the students from August all the way until the summertime, and they have internships with Kahoaliʻi. And at this internship, after he spent about maybe 2 hours in the class with our students, one of the students, who, keep in mind again, I work with them throughout the year, he turns to me after just a few hours of Kahoaliʻi and tells me, "You're no longer my favorite teacher. I have a new favorite teacher." And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, to be able to come in and impress the students and have them enjoy his class so much in just a few short hours. But it's a testament to how well Kahoaliʻi runs his classes and how relatable he is with the students. And just for a little bit other background information or info on our speaker today, Kahoaliʻi grew up in Kapahulu and attended Honolulu Community College and attained an associate's degree. He then obtained a bachelor's degree from the University of Hawaii at Mānoa in environmental studies with a focus on limu, oceanography, and Hawaiian language and culture. After graduation, he worked as a park ranger for the Department of Land and Natural Resources before eventually moving back to teaching at Chaminade University. At Chaminade, Kahoaliʻi works to incorporate Hawaiian language and culture into the science department and university at large. He teaches or co-teaches several courses, including biology, introduction to lab, environmental studies, natural resource management, introduction to ecology, and some physics courses. Kahoaliʻi always had an interest in limu and hopes that his research will help stop the decline of the ocean ecosystems of Hawaii, as well as discover ways to restore the native limu, coral, and other native species in this area. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to our speaker.
Okay. Mahalo, Jarek. You took like 30 minutes out of my presentation. Now what I'm going to talk about. Yeah, mahalo, Jarek. Aloha, everybody. My name is Kahoaliʻi Keahi. Like he said, born and raised here in Oahu. And I was asked here to talk about kind of my work I've been doing in Hōkūlani some of the research I've been doing so far in my lab at Chaminade University, and some aspirations that we kind of have for the rest of our students, especially the ones that will be here this summer with Project Hōkūlani. So let's go ahead and get into it, just to abide by everyone's time so we can get out of here in a timely manner. So again, Bilina mai aloha. Because I can, I'm going to share a little bit about my family too. I just got a newborn. She's sleeping right now. Her name is Alana Kapoʻai Awapahili Chinaye Keahi Mapukis. Born October 30th. She just got her shots, so she's going to be a little bit cranky. So hopefully I fed her enough that she'll sleep over there. But yeah, this is her. Just brought her home. She just turned about 5 months the other day. Took her out, doing all the things, and I'm hoping to raise her to become a Pokemon champion, because that's kind of what I did this past summer. And hopefully, you know, we'll breed a family of champions moving forward. But anyway, the introduction. I'm a teacher at Chaminade University. Like Jarek said, I teach a whole lot of stuff from botany, anthropology to data science, computer science, geology, natural science management, marine and oceanography, Hawaiian studies, and culture. And I basically grew up in Hawaii doing what us local kids do. We go to the beach every day. But for me, I first went to Anuenue, where I learned Hawaiian language and culture. And I didn't know. I watched TV, I saw Power Rangers. I knew how to speak English, but not how to read and write it. So it wasn't until later on that I learned how to read and write in English, where I found myself going to Roosevelt, where I eventually graduated. And then from there, I coached along the way for paddling. Since I graduated, my goal and aspiration was to become a professional surfer, bodyboarder, or paddler, if that was even a thing. But my mom said go to school, so I went to school. And I figured out going to like forestry or oceanography. So I joined Kupu for a handful of years. One summer, we went to Haleakala, where we planted about 3,000 trees as part of the forestry program. Outside of that, I interned and worked at the Seed Labs in Lions Arboretum, where we learned how to propagate and clone native or endangered species, especially those that are marked extinct. And tried to figure out what I wanted to do after college. I tried my hand at teaching, and that's where I found out teaching was definitely not for me. It is a skill that some people have, and definitely one that I have not acquired quite yet. But I taught at elementary schools, K through 6. I taught Hawaiian language, Hawaiian culture, or Hawaiian history, and more on the science side. So this is all the guys that I used to teach way back in the day. And that led me into working for Forestry and Wildlife, being one of the only park rangers on Oahu, where I created an outreach education system for me to go on into the schools, since I was the only park ranger on island, teaching them about the importance of our state parks, our managed areas, as well as conservation in general. I was also one of the ones to be part of first responders, rescues, and trail maintenance. Beyond that, I was also a ninja. I spent a little bit of time with some of my friends getting into MMA and UFC, but that's beside the point. I spent most of my time outside of that coaching paddling. It's been about 20 plus years that I've coached paddling. I've sailed and trained on Hokulea under Nainoa and Bruce, but primarily spent most of my time on Hiki and Alea creating lesson plans for the road-wide voyage as they sailed out to share what Hawaii has to offer and how they can help with creating or understanding the concept of Malama Aina, where they're from. Outside of that, for my research aspirations and accomplishments, I worked with the Kathleen Ruttenberg lab at UH Mānoa for roughly about 4 years, a little bit longer, depending who you ask. And I spent most of my time focusing on chemical oceanography and the fluctuation of growth of invasive microalgae or limu in Kaneohe Bay, and kind of helping to restore Paipa Heia. So I was part of a crew who helped develop the foundations for restoration of fish ponds and the permitting process here in the States. So that can be a story for a different time. But outside of that, because I'm also the cultural specialist here at Chaminade University, my background's in culture and Hawaiian-ness comes from my family. I grew up in a hula household, so I grew up doing hula, holi, mele, and most recently I've been uniki'd by my kumu and 9 of my closest friends to be one of the only 9 in Hawaii to be trained, uniki'd, and recognized as practitioners in awa ceremonies, specifically higher ceremonies where we serve and honor higher-ranking guests, ali'i officials, or most recently for FESPAC, royalty that came down from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Nowadays, I spend most of my time teaching all of my students kind of all of the mistakes that I made and what not to do while conveying my passion of oceanography, of limu, and getting them the skills that they need to move forward in their life and their career as they progress in their higher education. So I do all of this volunteering, data science stuff, teaching and mentoring all of my students. Also, I can pass on what I know to the next generation, whether it is for higher education, whether it is for my passion for Pokemon, or in general, just to enjoy the environment while still doing malamaʻaina work, or even how to do ceremonies, whether it's awa, whether it's kihe, whether it's doing oli, hula, or mele. Mainly so I can make money and buy Pokemon cards. But that is besides the point. So mainly I'm just this guy that Jarek said. I do all this conservation work. I teach at Chaminade University. I mentor a whole bunch of kids with the goal in mind to teach them the skills they need to move forward in life so that they don't have to reach the roadblocks that I did when I was going through higher ed. So, which brings us to the question, why am I here? What happened? How did all of this become a thing? And why am I talking about this thing? You guys will probably know as much as I do about why, because I have no idea. But apparently I've been doing a pretty good job, or an okay job, mentoring students with Project Hōkūlani. So I assume that's what we're all here to see and kind of maybe learn from mistakes or things that worked, things that didn't, as we move forward with this program as well. Also, a kalama in advance, my house is also going through a round of sickness too. So if you see me like turn off my camera real quick, blow my nose, then come back, the internet went out and I had to restart everything and come back. Okay. So what do we do here, and why does it matter for the Project Hōkūlani things, and why is it important to convey science to students, especially those in high school, as they're moving to higher education or into their career paths? For me, it is to give them practical skills and field experience. One of the major things that I've been finding with high school students, especially those that are in middle school still, they shouldn't be thinking about high school, in my opinion. I mean, not high school, about college, in my opinion, just enjoying their youth. But with the world we live in, it's important to think about college sooner than later. But in my experience, some of the high school students, when they're thinking about college, thinking about their career, they have all these aspirations, but don't know how to get there. So to gain them that knowledge and field experience, I try to offer these types of experiences or internships for students, whether you're a junior or senior in high school or just start off in high school, or even those that are in their undergraduate degree in general. And then from that, translating their hobbies into scientific knowledge. Just because you don't know science or you're not good at science doesn't mean you don't know science. For some of our students that come through the program so far, they may have little to no knowledge or passion on it because they haven't made that connection yet. So when students come to me for the mentorship or for these classes or lectures or whatever it may be, I'm just turning their passion and defining it into scientific terms. Like we had one boy, Matt. He loved bodyboarding, loved body surfing, was at Sandy's all the time. I'm pretty sure he called in sick one day because the surf was good at Sandy's, but besides the point. And conveying to him that he knew everything that I knew, just in a different language, kind of sparked his passion and his interest in science. Although he didn't quite pursue it, he showed a different appreciation for it because he already knew those things. It was just in a different language. I also do these things to prove that science is hard, but once you understand it and once you find your passion for it, it becomes exponentially easier. Like for limu is my passion, but once you tell the kids that, hey, there's certain species you can eat, they start getting into it super quick and super fun, and start learning everything there is about it. Especially when you start looking under the microscope and you see all these different bugs and critters in there, and then you can start asking them the questions: why, what, and how. And then it starts teaching themselves without even having need to prompt anything. So what exactly do the students do, and what are their deliverables? So with me, my lab at Chaminade University, when I first started there roughly about 9 years ago, I didn't know what I wanted to do as a teacher either. I tell people I was tricked into working there. When I was a park ranger, I had multiple volunteer groups coming from Chaminade University from one particular class in general. Eventually, she came up to me and asked if I wanted to meet her dean because they wanted to try and incorporate Hawaiian culture and language into the department. I said, oh yeah, sure, why not? But I'm going to be quitting soon, so I don't know if that's going to be an issue. She's like, oh no, it's fine. I get there, dust off my clothes, put on a nice polo that I had sitting in the back of my truck, and I go into this meeting not knowing that it was an interview. Anyway, turns out they hired me to be the culture specialist on campus where I incorporated Hawaiian culture and language, and then eventually became the department chair or the director of environmental studies. Now that I have the resources I do, I wanted to give back to the community that I grew up in. Since I grew up in Kahoaliʻi and the beaches that I used to go to was Kahoaliʻi or Cromwell's, that's where my uncle used to go and teach us how to lay net or how to fish, how to spearfish, how to night fish, do all those things. And that's where my family would hang out. And noticing over the years that that beach has been changing for better or for worse, I wanted to give back in the way that I knew how, and that was through research, through education, and through volunteer work. So I created a lab specifically at Chaminade University to look at these things. Seeing in my department for environmental studies that we didn't have a lot of opportunities for research because it is a studies program that primarily focuses on the human interaction and policy and law, I wanted to create a lab that gave my students the opportunity to learn how to do field work, how to do lab work, how to create their own research projects or whatever it may be by way of looking at macroalgae or limu, water chemistry, and shoreline erosion. So our primary site is at Kahoaliʻi. With this, we are focusing specifically on water chemistry throughout the water column in 5 different sites, and looking at limu population density throughout all different sites as well, but focusing specifically on the invasive species Acanthophora spicifera, Gracilera salicornia, and we have Bryopsis pinnata. And these are the guys except for the Hellamina. We focus also on Hellamina because it's one of the only native Hawaiian species that's still found there that's thriving. So we want to make sure that continues to thrive. With this, we create a lot of volunteer days for the community to come out to learn about the area, learn about its history, while also giving back by removing invasive species in particular months, depending on the season that they're most prominent in. With Kahoaliʻi, this is our 5 transect sites. This is where the stairs are, for those of you who are familiar with Cromwell's. This is that island that's on the outside. This area over here, where the sand is where people like to go swimming, take pictures of whatever it is, and then we move from there down the line. Over the years, I've noticed that when doing these things with the community, it's always important to start from the beginning. So when I do these internships with Project Hōkūlani or anybody else in general, especially when they come in as volunteers, I make sure to introduce with them or to them the importance of history of the place. So when I have Project Hōkūlani guys from the high schools come in, I teach them the history to the extent that they can talk about it on their own. Because as one of their deliverables, they have to create a presentation at the end that kind of gauges how much they've learned and how much they've grown over that past week or couple of months, depending on how often we do it, throughout that time with us. So this is just some clips that we use as we progress through one of the internships there. Not only do we learn how to use all the equipment for scientific research, especially for water quality and monitoring invasive species, but we also spend time removing those species as well while we have the opportunity. Besides that, with knowing the history, they have to understand how the equipment works, why it is the way it is, and how to conduct their own field research without my guidance all the time. So as we progress throughout the internship, I have them go off on their own for the last 2 to 3 days to conduct their own surveys, their own scientific research, write out the methodologies, and then present that in video form as a way of kind of like their final exam. Like, where did my mouse go? There we go. So by the end, we create I think it's a 5 to 10 minute video about everything they've learned, their reflections, and I have them pretty much lead everything. So we spend the first 3 days of the week learning about the site, learning about the equipment, learning proper water etiquette, safety, all those things before them going off on their own, looking at the equipment we have, looking at how to use them, and explaining that to the audience in the way of video form. So the way we do, the reason why we do videos is because I've had and hosted enough events where students had to present, and we always go over time. So one way to kind of get rid of the rambling, so to speak, is I don't force my students. I just voluntold them that they have to make a video so that we can keep in time and put all the important things there. And if the audience has questions, then they can spend that extra time answering those questions, answering the interests of the audience in a way that they already know. But all the information is here in that 10-minute video. And as it progresses, it'll tell you about the safety of the place, how to use proper equipment, when to, how often to look at the weather, the location, tides, surf, whatever it may be, proper safety equipment to wear, no matter where you are. Even if you look ridiculous, you have to and should always wear safety equipment. And then progressing always with friends or buddies whenever you're in the water. Never go out alone, even if it's for research or education or for money. That's safety should always come first. Then moving forward, how to use your equipment, how to do proper field research. What are you looking for? What are the questions you're asking? And it goes on and on from there until eventually they're comfortable enough to present themselves. So this summer, we plan to improve the experience by teaching them a little bit about coding and data visualizations. So I think now that I've had enough students from Hōkūlani and I'm kind of comfortable with the program and how it functions, I want to do a little bit more with our students in way of teaching them proper data analysis and visualizations with one of our other sites at Kahoaliʻi. Here at Chaminade, we partner with one of the nonprofits up in Hawaiʻi, and we help monitor their water or their water health at their wetland there. They're doing restoration work to hopefully bring back some of the native birds that are in the area. But to do that, they need to have approval from the federal government, basically, for EPA, for the U.S. Fisheries and Wildlife, and to ensure that the water that they're removing is still acceptable for human health and activities. So as we know, there's lots of silt in this area, and it can be seen kind of the same as Heia Boat Harbor, Mānoa, or even the Alawai, where there's still some sort of contaminants in there. So as they're removing all this bulrush, all this mud, some of that contaminants make it into the ocean by way of some of the underground wells or springs that they have. So we ensure that that doesn't happen. If it does, we reach a certain level to stop, let it settle, and then continue on afterwards. So with all of this, we work at this site here in Hawaiʻi, right next to Oahu Country Club, in this area here. It's right next to the water or the bay area. this entire wetland here. I don't know why I can't switch slides, but we're just gonna keep. Okay, good. It switched. This area used to be a cultural heritage site. It was a site for the first pahu drum around in Hawaiʻi. It has petroglyphs, hieroglyphs, and terraces that there were remnants of fish ponds or heiau within the area. They're still restoring the site to bring it back to its former glory through restoration, through volunteer work, replanting and outplanting, and our work, of course, with water quality. So we plan to restore the site to its original form for the alai hula, but we also have to abide by the EPA's Hawaii State Water Rules and Regulations to ensure that everything falls within water quality range. So with all of this, I want to teach them about the differences between shoreline, ocean, wetland, and estuaries, and how different regulations are applied for different areas and different seasons, so that we can use all of our equipment, whether it's through tracking through water quality probes, through water collection, or observation in general, to eventually create heat maps through R or Python that will better help us understand the correlation or the relationships between different chemical cycles within the area, or even microbes like E. coli, or other microalgae that are found within the area. We've started with some of the things in my own lab. Now that we have a solid 3-year study of our site at Kahoaliʻi and looking at the population density of Acanthophora and Boreopsis and how they relate to temperature and salinity, hopefully in a way that would help us create and manage better volunteer removal days. So with all of that, that is what we hope to do, what we do already with all of our students. And if any of you are interested, we're more than happy to open up these sites, these opportunities, or have talks again with anyone else in further detail on things that may have interest you throughout this talk. I'm hoping that that was of interest to all the audience, everyone who was able to attend today. I know it wasn't probably what we normally have here for these talks, but it's what we do. It's groundwork. It's something that needs to be done as well. So with that, mahalo nui, and are there any questions?
Thank you so much for sharing. While others maybe gather themselves, I was just very well informed, and I loved your visuals that you incorporated. And I also just like that to see the bleeding of your personality into the passions that you do. I think, you know, I know some of them you mentioned as just more to tell about yourself, but it is truly all connected, and I can really see that community aspect as a through line. But thank you. And yeah, if Adrian, Kendra, or Jarek even, anybody has a question, please feel free to put it in the chat or come off mute. Are there any questions? Alrighty. Well, if you still think of questions, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say I like this group. Awesome, straight to the point.
Well, as always, you can still put them in the chat, but otherwise I'd like to thank everybody for coming to our seminar. And please, as I mentioned earlier, to please check our CDS YouTube page for the upload of this presentation, where you can continue to engage with the material and also sign up for our CDS newsletter, and fill out the survey that will be coming to you shortly after this Zoom closes, so that you can give us feedback on our sessions and tell us what you want to see in the future. So thank you, Kendra. Thank you, Adrian. And thank you, Jarek.
Thank you, guys.